25NL Zoom on Pokerstars. Welcome to a new Play and Explain session. We are going to play for about 45 minutes or so, and let's see how that goes. I'm going to play my usual style, which is tight aggressive and trying to exploit the pool as much as possible, which obviously in a Zoom game is not quite as big a thing as it would be at regular tables, simply because we don't get quite as much information about the players. But still, there is something to exploit in every player. We have second pair and we have the Queen of Hearts as well. Definitely a check. I'm not going to bet this one. Not the greatest of turns, but because we have the Queen of Hearts, we can absolutely call any size bet. Gonna check again, no point. And at this point, we lose to hearts, we lose to a king, we lose to 9, 10, we lose to ace 10. Quite a lot that we lose against, but his range is completely unfiltered. We have a bluff catcher. We need to be good 33% of the time, and I do think that against that landing range we are good, and indeed he had 10 high, so very happy about that. Call there was never really not calling. Here we are getting squeezed, and ace 8 suited is unfortunately a fold. Ace queen off. In the big blind, we would have 3-bet that against an open from the small blind, but unfortunately we just got a walk. That said, ace queen. Thing with ace queen and ace king is people tend to be unhappy or disappointed if they don't get any action, but as a matter of fact, you do want folds with these hands, because whilst there are good hands, every other hand still has a lot of equity. And here we 3-bet. This is a board where we will just go with a small continuation bet, basically a range bet. So even if I didn't have ace king, I would have c-bet, and with ace king it is definitely a value c-bet. So yeah, every hand has a lot of equity against ace king or ace queen. Even 7 deuce offsuit or something like that will have around, what is it, 35% equity. So just getting the blinds for free is in some ways even a bit better. We 3-bet ace 5 suited, so I'm trying to 3-bet as much as I can. This is a board where we can go big or we can check. I opt to check with bottom pair. Not a great turn. He does go quite big. I will just call this one. But let's see if he fires big again on the river. And he fires as big as even possible with this all in. We do have a bluff catcher. The thing is, we lose against a 6 and we lose against spades. The thing is, like, he just goes very, very big, which is weird, but I still think I just can't call. Definitely gonna mark this hand for review. But that was a tricky one because the board was very scary. It was not good for my range. And he 3x'd that river. I only had like a bluff catcher. But the thing is, he shouldn't do this with something like pocket jacks or so. So he either had at least a straight or, Well, I say that. He might have had a set as well because I don't have many sixes in my range. So I'd say, yeah, at least a set. And on the bluff side of things from an unknown player, well, he could have done it with anything if he really is someone who's a bit on the maniacal side. But I didn't have any information on that player, and therefore that was an easy fold on the river. Ace 10 off in the big blind, a hand that we will definitely defend against a normal raise, like this one. And this player has only c-bet 1 out of 4 times. Well, unfortunately, there is a 3-bet on the button, and the timing was quite off on that one. It took a long time to 3-bet. However, I still think it is best not to mess around with ace 10 off, for sure. Here, pocket 6 is the bottom of my 3-betting range, small blind against button, and we are getting 4-bet by a player we don't have much information on, and this is unfortunately a fold. As I said, it is the bottom of our 3-betting range, and yes, you could call there, but then you have to pay 12 big blinds, and if you don't hit a set, you will be in quite a tough spot unless it comes really with a low flop and you also have a gut shot or something like that. But a cold 4-bet in the big blind just makes me believe that the fold was the right play there. Having a few tough spots early on in this session. Although I say tough, they're not really tough. They're easy folds, but what I mean is that we got put into situations that you don't normally see all the time, like in the first 35 hands or so. You wouldn't expect to have 3 of those spots. But fair enough. We have another attempt here with ace 10 off in the big blind. This time, early position raises, and yeah, we have a caller, and this is something I don't like. So I think this is very close, especially now. Now it is actually, now look at this. I think I am a nit, yes, but this is a fold. Ace 10 against 3 players. If it were ace 10 suited, definitely a call. Ace 10 off is not good enough for a squeeze. Let's see this one. I'm going to call. Because, well, okay. I'm going to fold now. Ace 5 off. But yes, because ace 10 off just plays really poorly multi-way and out of position, I do not think that I had a call there. So whilst that looks very nitty, even ace queen is a fold in that spot in GTO, and I've actually done a video on that on my other channel, on the live poker guide. You can check that one out, and it's called something like pre-flop mistakes that you make. Against this min click on the button, I'm going to go with a loose 3-bet in the small blind. Ace 3 suited would be just outside my 3-betting range, but in this case, I just thought it would be a good one. Yeah, so that video, go and check it out if you're interested to see. It's quite a few unusual things that most people do wrong pre-flop. I can definitely c-bet this one. I get min clicked, and because all I have is some backdoors. I can fold against a snap min click. This is not like the type of player who would find light check raises there. So I think it's best to fold jack high with only a couple of backdoors. King 6 suited. In the big blind, he raises quite big, but King 6 suited I think should still just about be a call, and we flop bottom pair. He goes with half pot. We can call, we can raise. I think because we do have the backdoor flush draw and the overcard, I am happy to check raise. So if you go for creative check raises, well, this wasn't even that creative because I did have bottom pair as well, so I had a lot going for my hand. But in general, look to check raise with hands that have backdoor potential. So backdoor straight, backdoor flush draw, and also it's important to have at least one overcard, because if he happens to have top pair, then the overcard gives us some really good outs, even though it's only 3 outs, but we can win that pot. So here with 3-bet, and this, I don't think it's quite a range bet board, but as I've said before, on ace XX boards, we can often go with small bets. There are situations, especially ace baby baby, and this qualifies. Ace 6-3 does qualify a bit as ace baby baby. You don't want to range bet, but I think that's more like in later configurations where you have like a small blind versus button or something like that, where you don't do it. So this is a tricky one, and in GTO this is just about break even to 4-bet. We have a very tight player there, but it still definitely is a 4-bet. Well, not definitely, it's kind of like break even, but I think this guy could have done this with a lot of hands in the small blind. So yeah, this is not necessarily a super strong 3-bet, therefore still a mandatory 4-bet. Here we open under the gun. I can definitely go for a c-bet, and I'm gonna go for a big one with the backdoors that I have. We get called. Now we have second pair. I don't think we have to continue barreling, because we now have second pair, and look at this. It's pretty good run out for our hand, and I think now I can go for big value. I can overbet, and I'm gonna go even a little bit bigger, because if he has a queen, he will probably call, and he could think that we have a missed flush draw, although I probably wouldn't bet a missed flush draw at this point. And he's tanking, so, well, unfortunately he folded in the end, but I thought he might have bet. He probably didn't have the queen, because I think he would have called. Queen 10, I'm not going to 3-bet, the offsuit variant of it. But yeah, not the worst start so far. Now we have 10-9 suited again, this time in the big blind, and this is one of the hands that I do like to 3-bet with, and I would have 3-bet even against a normal size, but especially against the min click on the button. This is definitely a 3-bet. So just try to find bluff 3-bets in the big blind. That is something a lot of players don't do very well. And I think even better players struggle with that. I sometimes am too comfortable just calling, because like, for example, 10-9 suited, it's just so easy to just call there on the button. But it would be not a mistake, but it would be a mistake to always just call with that hand. We flop a gut shot, and well, he is a passive player. I don't know anything about him. Okay, now I'm just gonna go for a bet, and he snap folded. Excellent. So yeah, recreational players, if they limp into a pot, it's not a bad idea to just fire out a bet. But the reason why I hesitated just betting on the flop was because King, Jack 9 and 2 diamonds, there are quite a few hands that connect with that one. But once he didn't bet, I thought I was quite safe to go for it, because recreational players tend to bet with quite a merger range, meaning that if he had connected with that board in any kind of way, I would have expected him to bet, not really thinking about showdown value and things like that. So this is one where we could see bet, but we can also check with king high. Now we have a gut shot. Can we win this at showdown? There is a chance. And now his lower pairs are counterfeit if he had any of that. So I think our showdown value has gone up. I'm not expecting to win this all the time. Well, we would have won it actually if the board hadn't double paired. Could have tried to get him off, but I thought my showdown value was just good enough in this small pot. Did not need to go for a bluff on the river. Ace queen, and again, I mean, this guy is a bit like, this is the second time that he's 3 bets. What did he have? Well, still only, 2 out of 8, 25%. Okay. Well, now that we have the 4 bet, I just want to see what's developing. Obviously, against the 4 bet, I'm not going to continue with ace queen off. And look at this. There's a 5 bet. What do all these players have? Okay, so he was probably just stealing. That's good to know. So it was the second time he 3 bet, and I was considering 4 betting him with my ace queen off. But the problem is with his stack size, I would have had to go all in pretty much, or at least be prepared to stack off with my ace queen off. Anyway, so the guy who was on the button, he cold 4 bet folded to a 5 bet, so he might have just seen similar things about the 3 better than what I had seen, so that's maybe why he made a light 4 bet, or he just had something like jacks and then had to fold to a cold 5 bet. And what a dream spot for someone in the big blind if you have a really big hand and there's not only a raise but also a 3 bet and then also a 4 bet. So I'm isolating this player here quite big, but once again I do get 3 bet. Unfortunately can't do anything and I have to let go of my 4 big blinds. That's always the danger if you try to isolate a weak player, but you still have to do it if you have a hand, because you want to play pots against the weak players, and I don't believe in just limping behind. 10-5 suited. I am just going to open this because I seem to have quite tight players in the blinds. So normally this is outside the opening range from the button, but this time it worked. So queen 10 off will be an open. If the button decides to fold, which it doesn't. So we can fold. Pocket eights against someone who does not like folding to 3-bets. He's only folded 1 out of 9 times when he got 3-bet. But this is the second time, and that, although he opened from under the gun, but either way, pocket eights is a 3-bet there for me. And I think it's a pure, well, I'm not sure actually if it is a pure 4-bet in 3-bet in GTO, because we are so early, and the thing is you just can't call in that position. So you never call the hijack against the low jack open. You either raise or fold. 8-5-4, definitely not a board that I would like to see bet. Now that he just quickly checks behind, I am going to go for the bluff because we have an overcard, but more importantly, we had the gut shot. So in case we get called, we have quite a bit of equity drawing to a fairly nutted hand. Obviously not to the nuts because the board was paired. And we get a walk with 7 deuce offsuit. So the sun is shining for us today. Ace 8 off. We will definitely open this one if we get the chance to. But we have someone tanking, probably being distracted. Is he really gonna count down his entire time bank? Not quite, and he raises so we can fold. 9-7 off is a hand that a lot of players would call a raise with, and the thing is, against a min raise, it can't be a big mistake to call it. However, it's just not profitable to do so, and therefore I'm just going to fold. Like, yeah, it's not a mistake probably, or if then only a tiny one, and maybe with some skill edge I would be able to turn it into a plus 0.01 big blind of positive EV, but what's the point in doing that? Just losing time. I'd rather move on and play hands that are better for me. Ace deuce off is not really a raise, but I will raise it up because I have blinds that seem to be on the tighter side, and at least I do have an ace. But if this guy is taking his entire time bank, I'm wasting so much time once again, which is annoying, but c'est la vie. And I have another tanker. Ooh, this is not a bad flop for me. So I will c-bet it because I have a really strong hand. Unfortunately, no action. But yeah, just fast play your hands. Don't go down the route of slow playing. Like I do sometimes slow play, and often it just goes wrong. So that's why it's better to just fast play your hands. I would have check raised the flop, but now there is no need to lead out. I have bottom pair. This board is not bad for him. The thing is, I only really beat a bluff, and I mean, he only goes half pot. It's a very nitty fold, but also I had the gut shot. I guess I should have called, actually. I missed that. Because, yeah, but I think it's fine to fold there against someone who doesn't c-bet much. He only had 49% c-bet percentage, which means that he seems to be more on the honest side. And once he does c-bet, then on the turn, even though it's half pot, which looks a bit fishy, I just figured that he was quite strong. But because I had the gut shot, even though there were 3 hearts, I think I should have continued against that. That was probably a mistake, but we're not talking like massive mistakes. That was probably just lost a tiny bit of EV there. But yeah, I think in GTO this probably would have been a call. And the reason why I decided against that was because he had quite nitty tendencies. But because of my gut shot, I should probably still have called. Anyway, moving on. Still quite a decent session so far. Now we have pocket tens in the big blind. And we get another walk. So we've got quite a few walks here. Some usually when we had good hands, but also when we had the 7 deuce off. So we can't complain too much. And this is the guy who is quite aggressive. I will check my top pair because he is so aggressive and because, well, also the flush. This is not great because he potted it, but I have top pair and I want to call. Now when he sizes down, I feel quite confident. However, he could still have the 5, obviously. But I still think that because he has a lot of air still in his range, even though I called from the small blind, I have to call. And unfortunately, as the ace jack when I had the king jack, but still not. I definitely won't fold there once he sizes down on the river. And note he bet pot on the turn with ace jack on a board that had 3 hearts and had a straight possibility. So in this case, if I had a suited hand, I would have called, but there was a cold caller with a 3-bet and king queen off. Definitely not a hand I would ever call a 3-bet with in early position. So in this hand we can go with a small c-bet. We get called, and once we get called and we get this sort of a turn, we have to check. And when the diamond comes in with the jack, I can still fold out a few better hands if I bet. But the thing is, he could have diamonds, he could have a jack, and once he bets, he probably has that. So this is, I think, I mean, I'm not even considering calling. I'm just pausing just to explain a few things. I think he doesn't have a lot of bluffs at this point. So maybe something like, no, I can't even see. No, really, I don't see. This is such an underbluffed spot. So I would obviously call a jack because that would be good. Ooh, I want something here, I think. He made it 3x. I have pocket 6s. I elect to fold. And the reason was there was a very aggressive big blind. And had he not made it 3x, I would have 3-bet. But because he made it 3x, I kind of didn't really want to 3-bet. So I chose to, or I would have then considered calling, which I rarely do on the button, but this would have been a situation where I could have done it. However, because we had the aggressive big blind, I chose not to. And yeah, now we've lost quite a bit of our stack, unfortunately, with King Jack versus Ace Jack hand, where I still think that it was the right play to both call the what am I doing here? The turn bet Oh, I think I have just accidentally closed my poker tracker, so we'll have to finish the session without a HUD, which is obviously not great, but it is, well, I can try to fire it up again. And yeah, I'm doing that because I don't want to play without a HUD in a Zoom game. That's not the greatest of ideas. Okay, now there are some updates. And we can now play poker and get hands while playing. So we're raising pocket hands. I am gonna go with this. And we're just taking it down. So yeah, we've lost about 20 big blinds since we were at the top. But that just happens. A 7 off. We will not continue in the small blind. Ace deuce off this time. Well, it's opened anyway, but I would not have raised this time because I had looser blinds. 7 deuce suited. Can we get a walk this time? Ooh, getting closer. And we do get a walk. The little joys of playing 25 NL Zoom on Pokerstars. Not many playable hands at this stage. Oh, pocket fives. I almost folded them, but we can raise. And when we get 3-bet by a recreational player who is short stacked, I mean, 25 big blind is still too much to get all in with pocket fives, especially against a recreational player. And means we have to fold. Min raise, but definitely not continuing with king 6. Now we have king 6 suited. And this guy, well, I think now I have to surrender. I would have isolated the limper, but once there is a raise, I need to fold. Yeah, so we haven't had a really good hand, have we? Like ace-king once, and ace-queen a couple of times, jacks and tens, but no aces, no kings, no queens. So he now makes it 3x on the button. So jack 9 is very borderline against 3x, but I still think it's okay to call. This is a player who hasn't c-bet much yet. I have bottom pair, definitely have to call. But if he fires another one, I will have to fold. And now there is no merit in block betting. So, oh, he had tens. Okay. Well, that was unlucky. Could have probably got him off his tens if I had bet. However, I thought I had enough showdown value, and that was pretty much the only hand that she might consider folding that beats me. Pocket deuce is here. We're still quite early. Well, let me see. We have pretty tight blinds. So I think I can open this. Get called. This is not great, but pocket deuces benefit a lot from protection. So if he has a hand like ace-5 of diamonds or so, I would want him to fold. Well, he raises, but we do have a pair, even though it's not a great one. So definitely calling. And look at this, we now get counterfeit. So this is not great at all. And now I can't do much else but just go for a bluff. I bluff with the absolutely worst hand that I could have at this point, but it was a good card for my range because he might raise with a 9, but I will definitely call if I have a 9. And I just had to go for it there in that spot because there was no other way of winning that hand. And if a card comes that's good for your range and you have a hand that can't win, then you have to bluff. Ace queen suited, we will obviously raise. Yeah, so we haven't played any big pots, and that's also reflective that we haven't had any big hands. Okay, so now we have another raise to 3 big blinds, and this time I am going to 3-bet, and I'm not going to 3-bet too big, even though it's still 9.5 big blinds. He calls. This is a board that we can either check or bet big. I'm gonna go for a fairly big bet, and we do take it down. Yeah, I think big betting in 3-bet pots and these nitty pools overperform. So if in doubt, I would say just c-bet. Okay, we call a min click with 9-8 off, and we flop second pair. Don't know much about this player. He bets pretty tiny. We could trace, but I'm okay to just call. Now the 10 is actually quite good. It reduces the chances of him having a 10. And now the queen is not great. He could have bluffed with the queen earlier, but I kind of suspect I'm gonna go with a tiny bet myself. Because I don't think he seems to be a very aggressive opponent. Well, yeah, okay, he had the king 9. I thought because of the betting pattern, I thought he either has a 9 or he has an under pair to the 9, so something like 8s, 7s, 6s. And because of that, I went for a tiny blocker bet because I thought all of those hands would call, and I win against all the others except for the 9s, although maybe against some 9s I might even win. But unfortunately he had the king 9, but it's still good because he might have bet the river, although he probably wouldn't with a queen there, so we lost more than we needed to. But I thought that I could get value from weaker hands, so it was a very thin value bet, and also a little bit of an insurance for not getting bluffed, because if he had made it quite big on that river, I would probably have had to fold. Here I want to bet. I'm gonna go big on the 9 high board. I have 2 overs, no backdoor flush draw. and I'm happy to clear out some equity. Now we have a gut shot to the bottom end of a straight. 5-6 already gets there. Because I made it quite big, I think it's hard to fold out a lot. So I will check, and we get the ace on the river. And the question is, well, first of all, what he does, but if he checks, which he doesn't do, he overbets, and that is interesting. Okay, so he must have had something. Like, what kind of bluffs would he have now where that he called the flop with? And I don't see many. Like, there would be, well, 7-8 maybe. 7-8 would be pretty much the only hand that I can see that would need to turn that into a bluff now. Can he have a weaker ace? Not with this sort of a size, I think. So I think this is under bluffed. I don't see, like, over betting this river. I don't think I can call with my ace 10. So I have to fold. But this is another very interesting one that I want to review. So we're getting raised, and this is a player we've just had a hand against not long ago, and this time he folds to a 3-bet for the very first time. So I think we've done okay, and I am going to finish the session, but bear with me because I'm going to analyze the two hands that two or three hands that I had here that I marked. So I'm gonna analyze them in GTO Wizard, although I'm not sure, can I actually leave this open and use GTO Wizard at the same time? I hope so. I hope I won't get banned by Pokerstars, but if I can prove that what I'm doing here has nothing to do with live play, I'm only analyzing a hand in hindsight. And, well, I did something that wasn't perfect. So the 3-bet is fine. And here it says I should check, which is what I did. Great. And here already it's telling me that I should have folded. Look at this. Okay, so this was a mistake to call, and then the river is definitely a fold. So that one was fine. And let's now just look at this hand. Oops, sorry, that's not what I wanted to do. It's this. And we can upload this here. So this is an amazing functionality in GTO Wizard. I love to analyze my hands like this. And again, I did something that wasn't according to their play. But let's see why. So we raise, of course. Here I bet big, which, okay, so they wouldn't have done that. They would have just checked pretty much everything. But if we look at the EV, it's exactly the same EV. So I think that is fine. Once the 3 comes, well, okay, now they want us to bet big. But again, my EV loss is minimal. So I did it just the wrong way. And here it says that I should absolutely call. And let's press the study button and just have a quick look what hands we want to call with. So it, wait, where are we? This is, so big blind should, where do his bluffs come from on this board? He bluffs Jack 9, but he overbets, right? So it's this one that we have to look at, and he doesn't overbet much anyway. So I think we really are in exploitative territory, and as I said before, I just don't think that he has many bluffs like 7-8 for me. He won't turn a 9 into a bluff like this. So this is almost always two pairs plus, and he recognized that the aces might be good for me, and therefore I think he overbet there. And I think I'm still very happy with a call, even though solver mixes between call and a bit of raise and basically never folds. So very interesting to see, but I think I'm happy with how I played this. I'm happy with how I played the entire session. And if you are interested in getting GTO Wizard, then see the description below because you can get 10% off your first purchase. Thank you. Bye.